18 seconds. That's all the time the crew of Venom 04 had to stop a billion-dollar warship from being obliterated. At exactly 0917 hours local time, the MH-60R Seahawk cut through the thick, dusty skies 24 nautical miles southwest of Al-Hudaydah, Yemen. The helicopter's rotors thumped rhythmically, slicing the morning haze as the crew settled into what felt like just another routine patrol. Inside the cockpit, Lieutenant Jack Rayner kept one hand steady on the cyclic, scanning the horizon where sea and sky blurred into a milky veil. The heat shimmer made visibility brutal, barely 3 miles at best, and everything beyond felt like it existed in another dimension. But none of that raised alarms. Not yet. His co-pilot, Lieutenant Junior Grade Iko Moreno, monitored the instruments with steady hands. In the back, Tactical Operator Petty Officer Travis King tapped through his screens, half bored, half alert, while Door Gunner Corporal Evan Daly lounged beside the G-21, humming under his breath and casually running a cloth across the ammo feed tray. They'd flown this sector dozens of times. It was quiet, predictable, until it wasn't. 15 minutes into the flight, the radar chirped. Just once. A small, unexpected blip appeared, too faint to ignore. King's posture snapped upright. New contact. Bearing 045, he called out, already punching in commands. Altitude 2,200 feet. Speed 270 knots. He paused, fingers hovering. Too slow for a fighter, too small for a helicopter. Rayner frowned and banked slightly, shifting their flight path for better line of sight. Get eyes on, he ordered. Within seconds, the Seahawks and ASQ-44 forward-looking infrared FLIR sensors spun toward the contact, searching for a heat signature. But the haze was thick, and the ocean's warmth blurred everything. The display showed nothing, until it did. A flicker. A bloom of heat, barely visible above the horizon. Thermal signature. King called out. Low contrast. Very faint. The entire crew leaned forward. Rayner dropped altitude slightly to improve the angle, trying to bring the ghost into focus. Then, in one sharp breath, the FLIR caught a solid hit, a blurry, fast-moving shape in the sky. It wasn't a bird. It wasn't a weather balloon. It was a drone. Vampire, vampire, vampire. Rayner's voice cracked through the headset, issuing the urgent NATO brevity code for an inbound missile or aerial threat. The Seahawk immediately shifted position, putting itself between the unknown contact and their primary responsibility, the USS Gravely, a guided missile destroyer sitting 12 nautical miles to their rear. That drone wasn't sightseeing. It was headed straight for the ship. Daly spun into firing stance, gloves on, eyes focused. King ran a thermal crossmatch and radar profile. No IFF response. No civilian transponder. Altitude steady. Flight path direct, he reported. That's a Houthi drone. SA Mod 3 variant. Same one used in the Bab al-Mandeb attacks. Everyone knew what that meant. A one-way trip with an explosive payload. Still, protocol demanded confirmation. Jack switched to the secure link. Gravely, Venom 04. We have positive ID on an SA Mod 3 inbound. Request weapons free. The radio crackled for half a breath. Then, Venom 04, Gravely. Weapons free. Engage and destroy. That was all they needed. The hunt had begun. The tension in the cabin thickened instantly as the authorization came through. Rayner banked the Seahawk hard to port, rotors chopping through the humid air, moving fast to intercept the incoming drone before it could threaten the Gravely. Below, the ocean blurred into streaks of gray-blue, whipped by the helicopter's rotor wash as the crew tightened their focus. In the doorway, Corporal Daly shifted into firing position, the G-21 mounted on its pylon gleaming in the filtered light. This was no ordinary door gun. It was a 50 caliber beast capable of spitting 1,100 rounds per minute with surgical precision. Range? Daly asked, leaning into the gun as the first gusts of wind rattled his helmet. 2.3 nautical miles and closing, King called from his station. His eyes were locked on the radar feed, updating constantly. We're at the edge of effective range. You'll need to walk it in. Daly just grinned under his breath and tightened his grip. The helicopter bucked slightly in crosswinds as Rayner stabilized their angle, holding the Romeo as steady as possible. You've got a 10-second window, Moreno warned. Use it. The drone emerged from the haze like a ghost given form. Small, fast, deliberate, its swept wings cutting the morning sky. Daly didn't waste time. He squeezed the trigger. The D-21 roared to life, its metallic scream filling every inch of the cabin. Brass casings rained out in shimmering arcs as orange tracer rounds tore into the sky. The first burst ripped wide, close but not close enough. A just left half degree. King shouted, tracking the contact's movement. Daly shifted, exhaled, and fired again. This time, the tracers stitched across the drone's wing line, grazing metal. Through the sight he saw sparks, real hits. Smoke began trailing from the drone's left wing. "Bring us in closer," Daly said, voice tight with focus. Raynor dipped the Seahawk slightly, closing the gap while still keeping distance from the potential blast radius. The third burst was precise, deliberate, every round walking across the drone's body like a surgeon's scalpel. The effect was immediate. The SA-Mod-3 shuddered, its composite frame tearing apart as rounds punched through its fuselage. A chunk of its wing tore free, sending the UAV into a death spiral. Impact. Target breaking apart, King confirmed, eyes glued to the display. Daly fired one more controlled burst for insurance, shredding what was left of the airframe. A plume of smoke and debris crashed into the ocean below. "Splash one," Raynor said calmly, though the adrenaline thumped in his veins like a war drum. The cabin went quiet except for the thrum of rotors. Daly stepped back slightly, letting the G-21 cool, his gloved hands trembling from the vibration. Moreno shot him a quick nod, a silent acknowledgement of a job done right. King wasn't celebrating. His eyes were still scanning the radar. "Hold up," he said suddenly, picking up additional contacts, faint, just at the edge of range. Could be birds. Could be more drones. Raynor glanced over his shoulder, jaw tight. Daly checked his ammo count. 1.5 boxes left. "We don't have the luxury for a swarm," he muttered. They all knew what that meant. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The adrenaline was still wearing off when the silence shifted. Not in sound, but in feel. A kind of pressure in the cabin, a sense that something unseen had taken notice. Petty Officer King sat hunched over his console, eyes locked on the tactical display. Then his voice broke the quiet. "I'm picking up something strange, signal spike, bearing 055. S-band." He didn't look up. Just kept adjusting dials, isolating frequencies. Lieutenant Moreno moved closer, brows furrowed. "What kind of signal?" King tapped a few commands and pulled up the spectrum analysis. "Weak, intermittent, but structured. Not environmental noise. It's got a digital signature, modulated. Looks like a control uplink." Jack turned slightly in his seat. "Drone control. Possible. It's in the same band as known Houthi command links, but this one's different. Cleaner. Tighter. Could be a new variant or upgraded encryption. And it's bouncing in and out, like it's trying not to be found." That got everyone's attention. A signal hiding itself usually meant one thing. Something smart was behind it. "Still no radar contact?" Jack asked. "Nothing yet. Could be terrain masked or too low profile. But the signal's real. And getting stronger." The crew exchanged glances. The destroyed drone might not have been the main act, just the bait. A test run. A probe. The real threat was still out there, somewhere in the electromagnetic shadows. Jack eased the Seahawk into a slow turn, adjusting their position without broadcasting their own. "Go passive. No emissions. Let's see what the dark gives up." King switched to the IN/LQ-210, the ESM suite. No radar pings, no active scans. Just listening. The screen shifted into silent mode, bearing indicators, spectral heat maps, RF spikes in ghostly blue. "Signals hopping," King said. "Still on S-band, but now using frequency modulation. Short bursts every 5 seconds. Directions narrowing, bearing 057 now." "Is it targeting us?" Moreno asked. "No. It's not reactive. Feels like it's talking to something else." That sent a chill through the cabin. A drone control link. An AI relay. A launch queue. Whatever it was, it wasn't alone. Daly stared out through the door, eyes scanning the empty blue for something, anything, that didn't belong. "Feels like they're drawing us in," he muttered. "Making us look one way while they come from the other." No one disagreed. Jack stayed on his current course, keeping the ship's flank protected while pushing deeper into the signal's path. "Keep scanning. Don't blink." King adjusted gain again. Signals holding, and now climbing in strength. Could be another bird inbound. We just haven't seen it yet. The war now wasn't just fought with missiles and bullets, it was fought in the silence between transmissions, in the background hum of the electromagnetic field. The ghost signal kept whispering. The Romeo kept listening. Somewhere, in the fog of waves and haze, another set of wings was likely already on the move. The warning came not as a sound, but as a shriek, A synthetic scream that shattered the tense quiet of the cockpit. Every light on the defensive console lit up at once. A flashing red icon bloomed on the tactical display like a bloodstain. Missile launch detected. Bearing 278. Left side. The Romeo's onboard missile warning system, watching the infrared sky like a paranoid sentinel, had found what they feared most. A launch. Close. Missile launch. Left. King barked, his voice straining to stay calm. But it was already happening. The screen showed a pencil-thin contrail arcing high over the sea, climbing, bending, and diving straight toward them. A man-portable infrared missile, likely a Soviet-era SA-18 or its Chinese cousin, fired from a small boat near the Yemeni coastline. It was the worst kind of enemy, cheap, quiet, and deadly. The warhead was designed to find heat and rip straight into it. And right now, that meant them. Jack didn't hesitate. He yanked the collective down and banked the helicopter into a violent right-hand dive, dropping altitude as fast as the airframe could take it. The Seahawk screamed in protest, the G-forces slamming the crew into their restraints. Deploying countermeasures. Moreno shouted, her hand flying to the preset panel. But the system was faster. B-47 knew what to do. Before her fingers even made contact, the dispensers fired. Thuds echoed through the hull as flares burst from the side and tail boom, trailing behind the helicopter in a precisely calculated pattern. 8 in total, each one hotter than the Romeo's twin exhausts, burning at over 2,000 degrees Celsius. Behind them, the missile locked on. For a second, it looked like it was ignoring the flares. It closed the distance in a blink, its Mach 2.2 velocity cutting time down to vapor. Then, at the last second, it veered. The missile chased the brightest flare like a moth to flame. A split second later, it exploded midair. A blinding flash of white, a thunderclap of concussion, and a shockwave that rocked the helicopter even from 200 yards out. Shrapnel pinged against the fuselage like gravel on a windshield. Not a kill, but a close call. Too close. Missile defeated. King shouted, scanning his displays. No damage. One launch only. No follow-ups yet. Jack steadied the aircraft, adjusting their position to keep maximum distance from the missile origin point. Visual on launch platform, Moreno added. Small boat, 26-foot hull, drifting, maybe 2 miles from shore. Could be a manpad team. Gravely sees it too, King confirmed, watching as the destroyer's own radar painted the contact and started adjusting weapon solution. The crew sat for a breathless beat, watching the sea slide beneath them, knowing how close they'd come. B-47, the Navy's guardian angel in a box, had just saved them. If you looked outside the aircraft, you'd see the circular ports along the fuselage and tail where the system fired its flares. Inside, the dispenser panel showed reloaded chambers and readiness status. The system didn't just launch flares. It thought. It calculated angles, heat differentials, and flight profiles. It predicted which flare pattern would most likely deceive the missile and deployed it faster than any human could react. That's why the Romeo had survived. That's why the Gravely still had cover. As the helicopter climbed back into patrol altitude, the atmosphere inside was different now. Sharper. More focused. Adrenaline was a memory, replaced by something colder, resolve. They knew what had just happened. The missile wasn't launched just to destroy them. It was meant to move them. To push them away. To open a hole. To create a gap in the screen. So another drone, maybe faster, maybe smarter, could slip through and finish what the first couldn't. Back on station, Jack said. Let's finish this. The sea now looked calm again, but the crew of Venom 04 knew better. Calm was a mask. Jack eased the Seahawk back into position, the rotor wash kicking up spray that shimmered in the rising sun. Inside the cabin, no one spoke. No jokes. No small talk. Just the hum of electronics and the distant mechanical rattle of the Ju-21 being checked one last time. Daly didn't bother wiping the sweat from his brow. His hands stayed on the weapon. His eyes never left the horizon. This wasn't over, not even close. King adjusted the ESM gain again. We're picking up a secondary signal, he said, low but clear. Same band, slightly different modulation. This one's stronger. 2 emitters? Moreno asked. No, King answered, eyes narrowing. I think it's 1 emitter, changing behavior. Adaptive modulation. Could be frequency hopping. Could be AI. That made the cabin go quiet again. A smart drone swarm. That had been CENTCOM's nightmare for months. Not a single kamikaze drone, but a networked cluster of them operating as a unit. Cheaper than cruise missiles, easier to mass produce, and deadly in packs. The kind of thing that could overwhelm a ship's defenses if it got too close. Signal strength rising, King continued. Bearing shifting slightly. 057 now. We've got movement. Could be a second drone approaching. Jack banked the helo again, giving the FLIR a better angle. Check visual. The sensor swept the sky, struggling to cut through the last vestiges of haze. At first, nothing. Then a blur. Too steady to be a bird. Too small for manned aircraft. But the shape was there, that same curved fuselage, those familiar swept wings, the sinister, almost silent grace. That's another SA mod, King said. Slightly modified airframe. Lighter wing profile. Same heat signature pattern. Moreno keyed the radio. Gravely, Venom 04. Confirming second drone inbound, bearing 057. Range 5 nautical miles. Request engagement protocol. The destroyer responded instantly. Weapons free. Fire at will. But Daly was already there. Already tracking. Already leaning into the GU-21 sight. Gimme range. 4.6 nautical, King replied. Coming in faster than the first. 280 knots. Looks like an evasion algorithm. I've got this, Daly muttered, adjusting for wind and roll. Jack steadied the hello. Moreno monitored countermeasure readiness. King tagged the contact and updated Gravely's data link in real time. The drone began to juke side to side, not randomly, strategically. It had learned. The last one flew straight. This one weaved like it knew what was waiting. Daly's first burst screamed into the sky, tracers lighting up the air, chewing across the drone's flight path. Mississippi. The drone shifted again. Too sharp. Too smart. Second burst, closer. A glancing hit. The drone wobbled, recovered, accelerated. He's not going down, King said. Speed increasing. He's aiming for the hull. Not today, Daly growled. Jack brought them in tighter, low, fast, aggressive, closing the distance before the drone could outrun their range. Daly adjusted one final time and fired a third burst. It hit square, center mass. The drone twisted midair, metal shearing away in chunks. It began to tumble. Not explode, just fall, broken, like a puppet with cut strings. It slammed into the water with a splash and a fizz of dying circuits. Splash 2, Moreno confirmed. Her voice was flat, but her chest was heaving. Everyone was breathing hard now. Gravely's radar confirmed both kills. No other contacts, not yet. The S-band emissions faded. King monitored the frequencies, one hand still hovering over the gain knob. Silence. Then, a final ping, one last burst of static, encrypted and unintelligible. And gone. Signal terminated, he said. No further emissions. For now, the sky was clear. Daly finally stepped away from the gun, his arms trembling from the effort, from the aftershock. He stared out across the sea, where 2 minutes ago, a drone tried to erase them. How many more you think they've got? He asked. No one answered. Not because they didn't know. Because they all did. Too many. The crew began reloading. Rechecking. Resetting. The Romeo climbed back into its station position, every sensor dialed to maximum sensitivity. Down below, the Gravely stat crews moved with urgent precision, CAWS mount scanning, QAMs cocked and ready. They knew it too, that today had not been a win. It had been a warning. Somewhere in Yemen, in a bunker or a laptop in the back of a truck, someone had just run a simulation. And this was only the first live test. The ocean stretched calm once more beneath Venom 04. But for the crew, eyes sharp, fingers poised, hearts still hammering, calm would never mean safe again.